Hi everyone, welcome back to another interesting tutorial. My name is Chine. If this is your first time coming across any of my video, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being here. Today's video is a continuation of my last video. In my last video, I showed you guys how to draft and cut a shirt and a short. So in today's video, I'll be taking you guys through the process of sewing it. So if you would love to learn how I made this, please keep watching and don't forget to subscribe. For the sewing of these two pieces, I'm going to be starting with the short. The short is very easy to make. So I'll start by attaching the pocket. On the waistline, I'm going to measure 3 inches. Then for the length, I'm going to measure 7 inches. I'll just go ahead and notch both sides. Then I'll cut it out. Now you can go ahead and use 8 inches for the length of your pocket if you want. After cutting this out, I'll go ahead and cut out the pocket. For the width of the pocket, I'm going to be using 15 inches, and for the length, I'm going to be using 12 inches. By the time I'm done with the pocket, if I have any excess, I'll go ahead and reduce it. So I'm going to face wrong side of the short to wrong side of the pocket. Then I'll go ahead and trace out that slant on the short. After cutting out the slant on the short, I'll go ahead and remove the pocket. Then I'll face right side of the pocket on the right side of the short. Okay, so I'm going to sew this down. Then I'll turn it to the other side. I'll go ahead and sew this. Then I'll show you guys what next to do. I'm done sewing the pockets here. I went ahead to iron it down so that it will look smooth. So I'm going to fold it out so that the right side of the fabric is going to come out on the side of the short. So I'll do the same thing on both sides. I'll go ahead and measure exactly that 3 inches that I cut out on top. Then I'll cut the excess. I'll just cut it all the way to the hip side. Okay, I'll do the same thing on both sides. After cutting out the excess on the side, I'll go ahead and smoothen out the pocket. Then I'll turn it to the back and close the pocket. Now at this point, if you feel the pocket is too long, you can go ahead and reduce it. I'll top stitch the top of the pocket so that it will just stay with the short. I'll go ahead and take this to my sewing machine and sew. So I'm done sewing the pocket here, and this is how it looks. Now after stitching it down, you can go ahead and weave it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be doing is to close the center of the short. So I'll just quickly take it to my sewing machine and sew. I'm done sewing the center here, and this is how it looks. The next thing I'm going to be doing now is to close the center of the back. I'm done joining the center of the back. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the front and the back on the crotch seam. Anytime you're making a trouser, always start from the center of the crotch seam. So I'm done joining the center of the crotch seam. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the sides of the short. I also go ahead and hem the bottom edge of the short. I added 2 inches allowance for the hemming. So I'll go ahead and quickly do that. Then I'll show you guys the finished result. So I'm done joining the sides, and I also went ahead to hem the down part of the short. So the next thing I'll be doing, and which will be the last thing I'll be doing for this short, is to fix the band. To get the band, I'm going to take the measurement of the waist. Then I'll cut a straight fabric using the measurement of the waist. The length of the band is going to be 4.5. I'll just go ahead and fold it into 2. So this is the band. I went ahead to iron in ½ inch on one side of the band. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to sew it to the short. For this band, I'm either going to start sewing from the side of the short or from the center of the short. It all depends on where you like. So I'll go ahead and sew it round. Then I'll come back and show you guys the next step. So I'm done joining the band here. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to sew it to the short. Now the parts of the back that is open, I'll go ahead and close it. I'm done sewing the band here, and this is what it looks like. You can actually see this short is looking very, very neat. I had to leave a little part open so I'll be able to put elastic. For the length of the elastic, I'm just going to use my normal waist measurement. I can just take out 2 or 3 inches from the waist measurement. That will be the length of the elastic. So I'll just go ahead and use a safety pin to pass the elastic. I've gone ahead to put the elastic here, and this is the finished result. My short is ready at this point. You can either leave the band the way it is, or you can go ahead and stretch out the band and run 2 lines on it. So that's exactly what I did here. That's why the band is looking this way. Just go ahead and stretch it out, then run 2 lines. I think I'll have to do another tutorial on how to fix that kind of band. So my short is ready at this point, and it came out so beautiful. If you have any question, just ask me in the comment section. So I'm going to start sewing the shirt now. The first thing I'm going to do is to notch that 2 inches I measured out for the button. So I'll go ahead and notch it, then I'll fold it. Now if you're folding this, you can either iron a stay so that it will be very firm, or just use your hemming gum to iron it in. So you have to iron half inch in and 1 inch. Okay, I'll just go ahead and iron it, then I'll show you. So I'm done with the ironing, and this is it. So what I normally do is I use my hemming gum to fold it in so that that part will look very smooth. Then I will take it to my sewing machine and sew. Okay, I iron it first with a hemming gum, then I'll take it to my sewing machine and sew. It works better for me. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to fix my pocket. For the width of the pocket, I'll be using 6 inches, and for the length, I'll be using 8 inches. Now by the time I'm done with the folding, the width is going to be 5 inches and the length is going to be 6 inches. That's by the time I'm done with the folding. For the pocket placement, from the shoulder you have to measure about 7 inches. Now normally the pocket placement is always at 8.5 or 9 inches. That's exactly on the chest. So because the back is going to overlap to the front by 1.5, I'm going to be using 7 inches. I'll just go ahead and fix the pocket. I'm done sewing the pocket here, and this is it. So what I did is I had to use hemming gum to iron it to the shirt before sewing. Okay, it's more easier like that. Just use your hemming gum to iron to the shirt before sewing. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to join the front and back. So I will just quickly take it to my sewing machine and join. I'm going to be joining by 1/2 inch. I'm done joining the back and the front here, and this is what it looks like. So that 1.5 extra that I added to the back is just extending to the front. So the shirt is just coming together. The next thing I'm going to do now is to work on the placket of the sleeves. Okay, so I had to notch the back of the sleeve so that I can be able to differentiate it from the front. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do on the wrist from the side, I'm going to measure 3 inches and 4 inches for the length of the placket. I'll just go ahead and use my scissors to cut through the 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you guys how to sew the placket. Before I start working on the placket, the first thing I did is to notch that 4 inches that I cut through. Notching it makes it very easy to work on, so you have to notch it. So this is what I'm going to be using for the placket. I measured 2 inches for the width and about 8 inches for the length. I went ahead to iron soft stay on it, then I used my iron to fold in one part. To start working on the placket, the first thing I did is to cut out a small strip. I'm going to use it to pipe one side of that 4 inches that I cut through. So I'll just go ahead and take this to my sewing machine, then I'll show you guys the next thing to do. I'm done sewing it here. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the other part. So the other part is just going to cover this part that I just sewed now. Okay, so I'll just also take it to my sewing machine and sew. I'll have to do a more detailed tutorial on how to sew this placket. So I'm done sewing the placket here, and this is what it looks like. So what I did is I had to fix one side to the sleeve. Then the parts that I folded with my iron, I just had to sew it on top. Then the other side that I sewed with a strip, I just had to tuck it in and I covered it. So that's basically it for the placket. Now I did the same thing for both sides. I'll try and do a more detailed tutorial on how to fix this placket. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to fix my sleeve to the shirt. So before fixing the sleeve, I'll just go ahead and notch the center. Now the center is where the 1.5 is overlapping to the front, so that's the center. You have to join both the front and the back armhole together so you get the center. So I'll just go ahead and join both sleeves by 1/2 inch. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the sides of this shirt. I'm going to be joining by 1/2 inch. I can also join by 1 inch because the sleeve is oversized, so I'll just go ahead and join it. I'll also be joining the cuff as well. The length of the cuff is 11 inches and the width is 3.5. So I've already gone ahead to iron my stay on it, and you have to make sure you leave at least 1/2 inch allowance on top and by the side. I'm done joining the sides here, and I also went ahead to join the cuff. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the cuff to the wrist. There's a little excess on the wrist, so I'll just go ahead and pleat it so it will just fit the cuff. So I'm going to be sewing the cuff from the back of the sleeve. Then the part that I folded with my iron, I'll just use it to overlap the part that I sewed. So I'm done sewing one side of the cuff. So the cuff is still open at this point. I'm going to overlap the other side on the sewn part. Okay, as you can see, I went ahead to also pleat on one side. So I will just go to my sewing machine and sew this down. So I'm done sewing the cuff here and it came out very nice. The next thing I'm going to do now is to show you guys how to draft the collar. I'm going to be showing you how to draft and sew the collar, and that will be the last thing I'll be doing for this shirt. Before I draft the collar, the first thing I'm going to be doing is to measure around the neck. In the previous video, I used 2.5 for the length of the neck and 2 inches for the width of the neck. Now normally the neck is going to be very small by using this measurement. Now if it's too small, what I'm going to do is to trim it down. I will just trim it down by 1/2 inch. It's more better the neck is very small and you can just trim it to any measurement you want than when the neck is very wide. So it's still at 16.5 now. I want to get it to 17 inches. So I'll still trim it down just a little. I'll go ahead and retake the measurement. So it's at 17 inches now. I can now go ahead and draft the collar. To draft the collar, the first thing I'm going to do is to divide the round neck measurement by 2. So the round neck measurement is 17 inches. If I divide it by 2, I'll have 8.5. So I'm going to measure exactly 8.5 on paper. So I folded the paper into 2. For the length, I'm going to measure about 5.5. I'll be drafting both the collar stand and the collar at the same time. So I'll go ahead and draw a straight line. So I'm going to divide this line by 2. The down part is going to be for the collar stand and the upper part is going to be for the collar. So I'll go ahead and divide this line into 2, then I'll draw a straight line. I'll work on the collar stand first. So the first thing I'm going to do is to divide that 8.5 that I measured for the neck. I'm going to divide it by 2. I just want to get the center. So after getting the center, the next thing I'm going to do is to go up by 1 inch from the side. Okay, so I'll go up by 1 inch, then I'm going to use my ruler to connect it. So after connecting it, I'm going to measure 1 inch on the side. I'll measure it all the way to the center of the collar stand. Then I'll just use my marker to connect it. So it simply means the width of the collar stand is just 1 inch. So I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect it. From the side, I'll just go in by 0.5. Then I'll use my ruler or freehand to connect a curve. So this part I just drafted is the collar stand. Okay, now going up by 1 inch is very important because the neck is not straight, so that curve is very important. So I'll still go ahead and measure it so that I'll make sure it's exactly 8.5. I'll be drafting the collar on the other side. So on the second line, I'm going to go in by 1.5. I'll go ahead and mark it, then I'll use my ruler to draw a slant line to the top. On the center, I'll go up by 0.25, then I'll just go ahead and connect this to the side. So I'm done drafting both the collar stand and the collar. The next thing I'm going to do is to cut this out. I'm done cutting out the collar stand and the collar. So for the collar stand, I feel it's too pointed, so I'm going to reduce it a little bit. So I'll just go ahead and transfer it on my stay exactly the way it is on paper. After transferring this on stay, I'm just going to iron it on fabric. Okay, so I'll just leave 1/2 inch on the side, on top, and also on the down part too. So I'll do that both on the collar stand and also on the collar. I've gone ahead to transfer this on fabric. I had to cut out 2 pieces for the collar stand and 2 pieces for the collar. So I left 1/2 inch allowance on the side, on top, and also on the down part. So this is the collar stand. The first thing I'm going to do is to sew it. I put stay only on one side. There is no stay on the other part. So the next thing I'm going to do is to sew on that 1/2 inch allowance on the side and on top. So I'm going to sew it down. So this is the collar stand. I also went ahead to iron stay on one side. Then I used my iron to fold in the 1/2 inch allowance on the down part of the collar stand. So my stay is on one side, and on that part where I ironed the stay, used my iron to iron in the 1/2 inch allowance on the down part. So I'll go ahead and sew the collar first. I'm just going to sew the 1/2 inch on the side and also on top. So I'm done sewing the collar here, and this is what it looks like. So I also went ahead to iron it down. The next thing I'll be doing is to go ahead and top stitch the collar. This part is optional, especially if you don't want to see thread on top of your fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do is to join this collar to the collar stand. To join the collar to the collar stand, the first thing I'm going to do is to notch the down part. Then I'll also notch the center of the upper side of the collar stand. The next thing I'll be doing is to join the collar to the collar stand. Now the part where I ironed the stay on the collar is also going to face the part where I ironed stay on the collar stand. Okay, so I'm going to just fix the collar in between the collar stand, then I'll just go ahead and sew it down. It's actually very simple. I'll just put the collar in between the collar stand and sew. The shirt collar is ready at this point. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and top stitch. This part is also optional. If you don't want to top stitch, you can just leave it like that. So I will notch the center, then I will join to the shirt. I'll also go ahead and notch the center of the neck. I'll go ahead and fix my collar now. I'm going to be joining from the center of the neck. The part of the collar that doesn't have stay, I'll sew it to the neck of the shirt. Then the other part is going to overlap it. So I'll just go ahead and sew. Then I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So I'm done sewing one side of the collar, and this is what it looks like. The next thing, and which is the last thing I'm going to do for this collar, is to overlap the other side. So I'm done sewing the collar at this point, and as you can see, it came out really well. The last thing I'm going to do for this shirt is to hem the down parts. I'll just go ahead and do that off camera. So this is the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If you have any question, please go ahead and ask me in the comment section. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and turn on your notification bell so that anytime I upload a new video, you'll be notified. We have a lot of interesting tutorials coming up on this channel, and I know you wouldn't want to miss out. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.